Alright, so I am Aaron Miles for Alter Reality Games, and I am currently spectating the OGP match between Paul and Brandon Bremont. Paul won the dice roll, so he will be going first. Let me just make sure all of this is clearly visible. Yeah, you got everybody's life points there. Alright, Brandon tried revealing his hand to me, but we're a bunch of bonobos who are only good at card games. We don't know how to use computers. He was unable to reveal his hand to me via untap. Because I'm a spectator, we tried putting me in as a player, but then it like screwed up the field. It, made both of them on the same side of the field. So this is how we're doing it. And I'm just going to be commentating more so from like Brandon's perspective, but I am also playing Val 3 in this tournament. I can say that freely because anybody who plays me will see me immediately reveal my ruler and mulligan accordingly. So I have a pretty good idea of what the Valentina 3 decks look like, so hopefully I can give some good insight into this, and we are underway. So what this matchup really comes down to, and the reason that I didn't want to play Gwyber Turbo, is because I feel like if your Guinevere's can't stick around for more than a turn, you have a really hard time maintaining pressure and card advantage and actually getting out your Gwybers and your Drakes and things like that. Now, I don't know either of these players' lists. I don't know how hard Brandon went into things like Drake versus Titania, stuff like that. Paul, I don't know if he's playing the stealth package or if he went for like more of the Tyler Wilson, Abdul, Charlotte, Shade kind of package. But black blue stone, no regalia, pretty standard play. Bremont calling a stone without playing a regalia. It's very possible that this is his first match and he has forgotten that Ruler's Memoria exists. Okay, no, he just hits a red blue stone. If he has any regalia in his hand, I think that's just proof that, like, he forgot about Ruler's Memoria, because that was something that came up a lot in testing where my friends would, like, pick up the Fiethsing deck, and I'm like, remember, play a regalia before you call a stone. They're in a Discord call, so, like, I'm covering up the chat because I don't expect a whole lot of things to happen in there, over here. Don't really expect anything relevant to be in there, so Brandon's just going to play that and pass his turn, which is fine. Even if you have a Guinevere, you don't want to play it in that scenario because it would just immediately die to Unseen Pressure. He doesn't have a regalia to play with it to get the tokens, so it wouldn't. He wouldn't have anything to sack along with the Guinevere, even if it did survive the turn, and now it would be vulnerable to something like Space-Time Anomaly. So turn 1 pass is fine. Sometimes Fiethsing wants to sack its first turn to set up for a turn 2 Gwyber, and Paul's just going to go for a Darkstorm. Brandon has shown a weak opening, and Paul's smelling blood in the water and just, trying to bring Brandon's card advantage down before he can really set up for like a strong turn 2 or 3 play. But if Brandon can like top deck a Regalia and has the Guinevere, this is going to be a punish on Brandon's part. But we'll see where that goes. Brandon, they're probably trying to figure out how to roll a 6-sided dice right now. Untap is not the most user-friendly if you've never interacted with it before. But I can't imagine Brandon has anything in response to that Darkstorm. Fiethsing doesn't really play a whole lot of instant speed cards. They play like Bear Magic, some of them play Alice's Castling, the occasional Seal of Wind and Light, but it's not very common. Not sure what we're still waiting on, but it's also possible that like Brandon's hand just sucks. That was another problem with the Fiethsing deck, is like sometimes you just brick. Like you draw a bunch of Gwybers and things like that. Maybe you open your Tama, but nothing else with it, and it's like Tama's like an odd card in this deck. It's great when you're going second and you have that green Energize because it's like the only thing you can spend that Energize on. Alright, it looks like Paul has selected his card. Just shook a random card in Brandon's hand as far as I can tell. So Brandon gonna lose a Death Scythe. So he did have a Regalia. So either Brandon is not playing Ruler's Memoria for whatever reason, or he just forgot. Yeah, and there's the Tama. The Tama you don't want to play unless you're like going into a Gwyber play. You generally want to save that Energize for the turn that you're making a big play with like Gwybers or Drakes or something. But the not playing in Death Scythe, well, alright, so if you look at your hand and you don't have a turn 1 play, like no matter what it is, then you don't play a Regalia, because you want to save it for turn 2 when you can get the token out of it and play a Gwyber. It was something that I used to do a lot back when I played the deck. Like you would just sack your turn 1, you'd be like, alright, I'm just going to play nothing, call a stone, I hit a tapped Ruler's Memoria, that's fine. I didn't want to play anything turn 1 anyway because I wanted to set up for a turn 2 Gwyber. See, now he gets... Now, if he had the Guinevere, I don't know why he didn't go Regalia, Guinevere turn 1. Like, sure, it's vulnerable to Unseen Pressure, but I wouldn't have expected Val 2 to Val 3 to tap out on turn 2 anyway. But now he does get the turn 2 Gwyber down. I mean, like, he could, so even if he plays, like, Regalia, Guinevere turn 1, and the Guinevere gets Unseen Pressured, he showed us that he has a second Regalia, he had the Tama for the Energize, so he could have played a turn 2 Gwyber regardless, assuming something killed him. Well, if you unseen pressure the Guinevere and then like you have 2 stones open, it gets a bit harder, but you have to try and jam down these early aggressive turns. Like if your opponent opened unseen pressure space-time anomaly, you're probably not winning that game anyway. It was very fortunate for Brandon that his opponent tapped out on turn 2 so to give him a window, and Brandon, took advantage of it. So good play by him. A little bit of a questionable setup, not going for these immediate aggressive plays, trying to stick your board down as soon as possible. Maybe Brandon just, figured his opponent would tap out at some point. Good call on his part, obviously. It worked out. Probably didn't expect any discard when your opponent doesn't play a Scorn or a Nameless Mist turn 1, but hey, it worked out. So Paul, thinking about his turn, probably just going to be passed. Like, for the most part, Val 3's just going to... Oh, no, he's playing more cards. Endless Night. Okay, yeah, he's going to Endless Night the Gwyber, which will... I'm assuming he's going to Endless Night the Gwyber, use the Val trigger to -3 the Guinevere, which will clear his entire board. Oh, you can draw arrows. That's neat. I didn't know you could do that. Maybe that's just for my benefit. Maybe he shook a card and it just shows the arrow, but I'm not 100% sure. Maybe Paul's just really fucking good at untap. Brandon obviously going to sack his Guinevere here. Or sack something. It doesn't really matter. His entire board's dying. It's going to draw 2, discard 1. Although, no, he will not have enough cards in grave to get the Death Scythe back before this happens. Even if he sacked like his Guinevere or his Gwyber, he'd only have 3 cards in grave, one of them being Death Scythe. Obviously don't want to remove the Death Scythe to add itself back, so... Brandon not going to be in the best position as far as that goes, but let's see what he discards here. He drew for that Guinevere, right? And then didn't discard, but he didn't. He just untapped without drawing for a turn? Let's see. I'm not sure what happened there. Because he had 2 cards in hand, and then he Guinevered, which would put him at 4. And then it looks like he didn't discard, but didn't draw for a turn? I'm not an official judge in this, so I don't think I can step in. Like, I'm hard-pressed to imagine that Brandon forgot Guinevere discards. Maybe he had 3 in hand and I didn't notice, and he just didn't... Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. There we go. He is now discarding Bear Magic. I'm not still in the Discord. Okay, yeah. I had to make sure I'm not in the Discord, like, and he's hearing me or something. I did leave. I was just in there for a second while, we made sure Paul was okay with me recording this and stuff like that. But so the Bear Magic in the grave, not the most useless card in this matchup, to be honest, because it does take away the stealth keyword on one of the resonators to make Melders minus for less. So, for example, if they go they want to go Riza, Melder, if you Bear Magic in response to one of the Melder, like, usually they put both Melders on, like, they put Melder on the chase with his ability on the chase, they respond with their other Melder, so you can Bear Magic one of them. One of the Stealth Resonators, doesn't really matter which, and then they go down to -12, -12 instead of -16, -16. So, like, obviously not the best card to have. These probably get sided out, but, I mean, a pretty good discard target barring the Death Scythe. So Paul managed to tap out every turn and surprise me. He's playing Bow as well. Not a terrible card, Bear Bow was a big thing back in that day. You can also tap it to pop stealth cards. Okay, it looks like he is playing more of the Tyler Wilson style of the deck, the one that won Atlanta in 2017, where he didn't play any stealth resonators. He instead went for the 4-mana Charlotte. I think it was Welder or Wielder of the Sacred Power, something along those lines. And then he played Shades and Abduls as well. Although Tyler didn't play Endless Night, so this obviously not an exact replica of the deck. He went for Plot of Water and Darkness instead. So Paul bringing a bit of his own combination of cards here. Can't hate that. And Brandon's going to play Ancient Barrier. So Ancient Barrier is a very important card in this matchup, and it's one of the ways that Fiethsing can compete. So what Ancient Barrier does, for those of you that haven't seen it before, is players. Oh man, I'm covering up. I didn't realize. Wait, so that pops up over there, but these. Oh, it looks like these are popping up on the other side of my screen for me. All right, so I'm just gonna move this stuff over. So that when I hover a card, you guys can see it. Just put that there. Hopefully Brandon doesn't go over that. Whoopsie. Whoopsie. Can't grab my own face here. Here we go. You guys know what I look like. I'm just going to shrink me down. Oops. Let's see where I have a card now. Okay. I'm going to put my own face back over here, like a little bit under where the cards go. Perfect. Okay, so Ancient Barrier, as I was saying, players pay 2 more to play non-Ancient Magic Chance. This was a big side deck card in Fiethsing back in the day. It was kind of your answer to control. Most people side decked like 1 or 2 copies, and then, you know, knowing the format, knowing that you're going into a Fieths or a Val 3 format, it was a lot of like Val 3 and Arlo combo towards the end because it was mostly played in Italy. Main decking the Ancient Barrier is a pretty good call here. Something that I would expect a lot of Fiethsing players in this tournament to be doing. And now it's like 4 mana for a space-time anomaly, which is incredibly, you know, difficult for Val 3 to like keep up on tempo. Now you get to play 1 removal spell in a turn as opposed to like 3. Like right now, like this is enough mana for 1 space-time anomaly. Whereas if Ancient Barrier weren't in play, this would be like space-time unseen pressure. Like it's a completely different ballgame now. And it looks like Paul has gone for the strictly blue-black build, which back then, you know, blue-black didn't have any addition removal, I think. Blue might have had, like, a shitty addition removal card, but I don't think they had any. So this Ancient Barrier is going to be here for the whole game. It didn't get discarded in the opening hand. There was no Nameless Mist coming out for Paul, so this Ancient Barrier is going to stick, and now Brandon is in a much better position to win this game. However, Abdul comes down, Adam Brawley's offline. Let's see if Brandon can remember that. It wasn't very often that people played Adam Brawley and Abdul in the same format. You know, once Abdul came out, and we only had like 2 or 3 weeks before, like, you know, the next set came, or it was like maybe a month before the next set came out, and then Priscia came over, and, you know, Adam Brawley went out the window for the next, until he rotated. But Brandon's actually got a healthy amount of Regalia here. If he were to flip his Fiethsing, it would have flying and draw a card every time it hit his opponent. Now, one important thing to note about Ancient Barrier is that it says Ancient Magics, and Black Moonbeam is an Ancient Magic. So that'll still cost 2 mana. But right now, Paul holding open Unseen Pressure mana, and I think that's it. Oh, Bremont is going to energize into the flip. And he played 1 card already. So he would probably be planning to play a 2nd card, get the 2 elf tokens that are going to be 5/5s once this flips. But Paul can, you know, Black Moonbeam in response. It'll still get 2. So the reason Brandon played the card first is because no matter how it gets ordered now, Fiethsing is going to come into play. She doesn't have an enter ability. Paul doesn't have an opportunity to Black Moonbeam. Brandon will play his 2nd card. Fiethsing's ability will go on the chase automatically, and then Paul can Black Moonbeam, but no matter what, Brandon's still going to get 2 tokens. And he has the double green for the flip because of, you know, Fiethsing's Energize and the Ruler's Memoria. So yeah, flipping it. Nope, that's not how you flip cards. Alright. I think this matchup is actually a lot better for Brandon than the stealth version of the deck. The stealth version is a little more, I don't want to say impervious, because it's not, but it definitely deals with Abdul better. Or not Abdul, sorry. It definitely deals with Ancient Barrier better, because you have Melders as a form of removal. You're not strictly into chance for that. And, you know, this build has Shade, but Shade not really doing as much as Melder does. And, you know, you kind of have to constantly commit mana to playing on tempo. If you want to play your Charlotte that's 4 mana, it can be hard to find a time to tap 4 stones in a control deck when your opponent's playing a deck like Fiethsing that has a lot of gas and can just constantly pump out the threats. But it looks like that Fiethsing is going to come in. You know, Brandon's going to get his 2 tokens, and he's going to attack for 5. Now, Brandon's tapped out, so he can't play his Bear Magic. Even if he did, his Bear Magic would be 3 mana. That's something to see if it comes up later. A lot of Fiethsing players get tripped up and forget that, you know, Ancient Barrier affects everybody because Fiethsing only plays like 3 chance. So we'll see where that goes. Although he could, you know... What? No, those don't have swiftness, Brandon. Put those away. There you go. Okay, and Brandon is going to Gleipnir. I don't know why I thought this card started with an H. He's going to Gleipnir the Abdul to force it to block so that he could shoot it with Tama, but Paul instead is going to pop off his Shade, dealing 600 damage to the token and gaining 600 life. So life stands at 46 to Paul, 40 to Brandon. Brandon obviously has a lot of Regalia on the field. That's another thing. There's really not a lot of Regalia removal in blue-black. Like, you have Hera, but I don't think a lot of people are main decking Hera in this tournament. I'd be surprised for sure. But even that would really just get rid of the Glepnir. Like, if you try to pop an Apollo, Brandon's just going to put his Tama back in his hand. That's like one card that you're giving him to, play a card for the turn. All he has to do is throw down something else, and boom, he's got access to 2 more tokens. And those tokens are going to really start to put on the pressure if Paul can't find a Black Moonbeam soon. And it's going to be a lot harder for him to do it because he doesn't have access to, his chance to draw cards. Like, Space-Time Anomaly's 4 mana, so that's only going to draw him 1 card. Here he's going to hit the Necromancy Memoria, pretty standard card from back in the day. Now he is going to have access, he's going to have like a chance to, pay that 3 mana and remove either the Death Scythe or the Bear Magic from Brandon's graveyard. I think Brandon only has 4 cards. Oh, he has 5. Okay, so even if you target the Death Scythe, it wouldn't like force him to remove the Bear Magic for the Death Scythe ability if you wanted to get that back or something along those lines. But probably not going to see the Necromancy come into play this turn. It's more of like a long game kind of thing. You want to try and force your opponent to run out of Death Scythes quicker if they're cycling through that with Guinevere. It's really good in the mirror for removing cards with Remnant, like Space-Time, Shade, Bear Magic, things of that nature. Although Brandon did show a little bit of, I don't think it's desperation really to get rid of the Abdul, but he definitely, it seems like he doesn't want it on the field. He would rather get the Abdul off the field than have 500 damage go face. Or maybe he was trying to force out the Shade. I'm not sure. Maybe Paul's over-prioritizing his Abdul and Brandon knows it. I don't know his hand. I don't know if there's an Umbrella in there. And something to note is that if Paul were to set a Prison in the Lunar Lake and then flip it, he would still have to pay 2 mana for Ancient Barrier in order for that prison to resolve. And Paul's just going to pass the turn, which is what you expect of a control deck this late into the game, especially with an Ancient Barrier on field. You really can't commit mana to Resonators anymore. You really just need to leave open that chance. And Brandon's just going to, right off the bat, go in for 500. It looks like he tapped the Glepnir again to force the Abdul to block. So let's see what Paul responds with. Maybe thinking about a Bear Bow, thinking about just letting it go. Let's see what's in Paul's graveyard real quick. Alright, doesn't look like he has a response for that. Oops. Unless, yeah, that's what I thought. Nothing unknown in there. It's just cards that he's played. And it looks like he's going to go for the block. Doesn't really have a response. Brandon going to attack with the Tama. Try and get in that, you want to get in that 200 damage before you pop the Tama to kill the Abdul. So, proper play by Brandon. Or did he just attack it into the... If he attacked it into the Abdul, that is an amount of disrespect on Brandon's part, trying to get his opponent to bow it so that he can pop it off in response instead of just going face. But he's going to attack for 800 in the air now. If his opponent has a Black Moonbeam, I would imagine he would have played it... oh, going for the bow. So that Fiethsing is down to 400 defense. Probably going to be what's that card? Space-Time Anomaly. Take off the rest of the defense on that. -200, -200 the token. And that will kill the token because Fiethsing will die, and then it'll go back to a 1/1. Brandon with an Unchaseable Seal of Wind and Light. Remembering to pay his own extra 2 mana because it is not a ancient magic chant. So Brandon definitely coming up on the coming out ahead on that trade, kind of. He can now get back Death Scythe from his grave, which will pump the Fiethsing out of range of Space-Time Bow again. He could have avoided this by just doing that in the first place. I think he has forgotten sort of about that Death Scythe at the bottom of his graveyard, because he could have, before combat, you just remove like Tama, Gwyber, Guinevere, Tama, Gwyber, Tama, I don't know, anything in there. Get back the Death Scythe, play it, tap it, or at least have it on the field so that you have the option to tap if he goes bow Space-Time, right? And then that token should only get in for 3. Val 3's ability still should have gone on the chase, targeting this with the -2/-2 because Val cannot target J-Rulers. But who knows? Maybe Paul forgot. We will see in the life total real quick. No, it was 3 and 8, 13. 3 and 8? 11? Okay, yeah, so 11. Yeah, so they remembered. The token was a 3/3. Bremont going to Had a Death Scythe in hand. Okay. So Brandon effectively pissing away his Seal of Wind and Light for nothing, because he still got back Death Scythe and played both of them in the same turn, so not even sandbagging one of them to get 2 more tokens the next turn. Because he did play Seal of Wind and Light, he could have just gotten back his Death Scythe, played it, he would have gotten 2 tokens for the 2 cards in a turn. So Brandon not exactly playing in top form, not any major misplays, but some of the little advantages that you can irk out, Brandon is just failing to take advantage of. But he does seem to be in a commanding position. His opponent doesn't have Black Moonbeam, is hard-pressed to find a way to draw cards. Will likely just end up probably space timing and bowing an elf next turn. You know, you can like attack, when he goes to attack with one of the elves, you just bow that one and then space time one of them for -5/-5, and then -2/-2, the one that you are, or not even, so you -2, -0, the one that hasn't attacked yet. So like, here, let me point it out. So this elf attacks, right? Let's say this elf attacks Paul. You space time this elf, you -200 defense off this elf, you -200 attack off of this elf, and you bow this elf. So then these 2 die, and this one becomes a 3/5. And that's how you're going to minimize the amount of damage that you're taking that turn. And that, you know, once again, that's only, well, it'll be more than 11 because Brandon will tap his Death Sights before on tap. So 12, 15, it'd be 1,500 damage. You can go down to 2,000. Not an unreasonable life total to come back from, especially at this stage of the game. Brandon only has 2 cards in hand. With that Ancient Barrier on field, it's pretty hard to imagine that Brandon's not going to be able to play 2 cards in a turn again, but if he has like another Seal of Wind and Light in hand, he's probably not going to play anything. But Paul, going to have to really think hard about what he's doing this turn. Maybe he wants to get back his Shade. You know, he called a Blue Blackstone, called the Last Dark Depths, so he can get back that Shade and play it, and then he won't be able to play any Chance, so it's probably not going to end up being the play he goes for. Looks like the Charlotte's going to come down. Yeah, okay, so it is like the Charlotte Shade of Duel package that I was talking about. So, Wheeler of the Sacred Spirit, I was right. I don't think that's what I said earlier, but that's what I had in my head. So, this is going to come in and draw a card, and then it is going to be a 2,000, 2,000? No, 1,000, right, yeah. It's only 200 for each card in your hand, duh. She's not that good. So it's a 10/10 that has barrier of cards that cost 5 or less. However, that is going to essentially turn him off of Chance. Unless he plays like an Unseen Pressure that actually wouldn't be able to kill anything right now, as those L's are 5/5s. But he does leave open the Necromancy, so he can at least get that Bear Magic out of grave. But Charlotte and Bo not actually going to be able to compete with that Fiethsing, as if Brandon taps his Death Sights before on taps and then taps them after, it will be up to 1,600 defense, and it flies, so he can't block it with the Charlotte anyway. Okay, so Brandon goes into his turn, draws, plays the 2 Death Sights before untap, so the Fiethsing is going to be up to a 12/12 flyer, notably. There are 3 Apollos out, it has flying 3 times, not that it matters, but keywords do stack, so drain stacks is the point I'm getting at here. I keep looking over to the monitor that I have the recording set up on, instead of looking into the camera when I'm talking to you guys. It looks like Brandon's just going for face with all of these. Paul hasn't adjusted his life total, but I would assume that this is the second elf swinging. Yeah, okay, so he's down to 25. Fremont going to go in with that 12/12 in the air. Paul, I can't think of any 1-mana chant that Paul could play on this turn, right? I don't know about you guys. I'm not thinking of anything. I feel like it would have been better to get back the Shade here with your 3 mana. Because removing the Bear Magic isn't really important when, you know, you've got out something with Barrier 5. You'd have an extra card in hand, so it should be a 12/12. So she could at least attack back into the Fiethsing next turn, and even if he taps both sites, you know, they'd at least trade. Because they can't Bear Magic the Charlotte anyway. It's got barrier of cards that cost 5 or less, 6 or less if you had the Shade in hand. But Brandon... Or sorry, not Brandon. Paul, it seems, is thinking about this Fiethsing attack. Nope, just going to take it. Brandon going to draw his card for Gleipnir. Play a Levitine. Brandon can, I think Brandon could have won this turn. Triton not going to have a target, but yeah, Brandon almost certainly could have won this turn. So if you tap both the Death Scythe, Paul goes down to 900. You tap the Levitine, goes to 7. You sack your board, untap Levitine all those times. Especially, you know, if you're playing 2 cards, and yeah, you play the Levitine, play the Triton, you get 2 more tokens. That's 2 more sacks for Levitine. I understand it's been a long time since any of us have played with Levitine, but Brandon, when you're watching this, you just missed lethal. Unless you're still scared of Black Moonbeam for some reason and didn't want to all-in on this play. Which, almost a reasonable fear. Your opponent has drawn like 2 cards in the last turn, but I would have gone for it. Like, so, if your opponent does have Black Moonbeam, I think you lose this game. But I think that's happening anyway. Because he would have just Black Moonbeam the attack, and then you're like, oh, I didn't sack all my shitty 1/1s to my Levitine, but like those 1/1s probably aren't going to win you the game. Not through like he's going to get, like he would just get back a Shade and play it, pop off an Elf, bow an Elf, block an Elf, and then you're down to like 2 Elves, and he's up 600 life. Yeah, I think it was definitely proper to all in there. If your opponent had Black Moonbeam, you lose the game anyway, so you might as well all in on that play that loses to Black Moonbeam, especially since your opponent hasn't had it for the last 4 turns. But Brandon gonna slow roll it. Although there's no reason to. It's not. So I say he's slow rolling it. He just missed lethal. Like that's not. It's not like an intentional slow roll. He just forgot about the capabilities of Levitine, which is understandable. It's been a very long time. This card has so much text on it. It does so many things. It's not expected for everybody to constantly remember all of the abilities of Levitine and to see all lines of lethal through it. I'm not sure what we're waiting on here. Maybe Brandon thinking about attacking with that last elf, seeing if he can bait Paul into... I mean, Paul really shouldn't fear blocking that elf if the last one comes in. Like, you have to worry about blocking with it beforehand because, you know, he can just run a second elf into it and then you're down what you paid your 4 mana for. And he's down 2 elves, sure, but he's still got the Fiethsing. At least now you could try and attack back into it. Space-time, whatever he blocks with. But with the Levitine... Well, no, you can still trade it. Levitine doesn't... Levitine doesn't, you know, pump defense, so he can trade the Fiethsing, and then Brandon actually wouldn't be able to flip next turn unless he has an Atom Brawly, because he energized to flip the Fiethsing and now only has 4 stones. He would have to call a stone before he can play it again, because the Levitine, you know, he can sack that to give it imperishable, but, you know, it'd probably be enough of a, just the Fiethsing, well, you know, that's what I'm saying, the Fiethsing wouldn't be able to flip, so he wouldn't be able to pump the tokens up to 5/5s again. He'd only attack for, like, what? He's got 5 of them and a Triton, so 900 damage at most. Probably bow the Triton. But the awkward part is that if Brandon has Atom Brawly in his hand, then you would lose the game because he'd be able to flip again, pump those up, and swing in for lethal. You don't have a whole lot of life points left. I don't think Paul did anything with his mana. Yeah, he didn't even remove the Bear Magic in Brandon's grave with his Necromancy that he left mana open for. So it was definitely... It was a very big misplay of Paul not to get that Shade back. He should have known that, like, he wasn't really threatening anything on 1 mana. Like, Unseen Pressure is the only card I can think of that deck plays that's 1 mana instant speed. And there's nothing on the field with 400 or less attack. So Brandon gonna block with one of his elves just to stop the you know, the bow from killing the blocker. Paul gonna pay 4 mana into a space-time here, take out that elf, get his 10 damage through. Was he going at the I don't know if he was attacking Fiethsing or face. Playing the Death Scythe leads me to assume he was attacking the Fiethsing. Okay, yeah, looks like that Fiethsing's getting attacked. So he's going to space-time the elf. Brandon can double pump, but Paul's going to draw a card off this space-time and go back up to a 12. Wait, did he play that space-time from hand? Oh no, he played the Death Scythe, that's why this went down to 10. So it's going to go back up to 12, yeah. Okay, so it's going to go back up to 12 when he draws off that space-time. So Brandon can double pump. It's still not enough. I can't imagine he has anything in his hand that is an ancient magic chant that costs 2 or less mana to protect this Fiethsing. Yeah. Okay, so the Fiethsing goes down. This is what I was talking about. See, like this, if Brandon had pushed for lethal last turn, he wouldn't be in this situation. And if Paul had brought back his Shade last turn, he'd actually be in a decent position to win this game. Brandon is out of gas. Do you see all these cards? All these. Brandon has 7 cards on the field that don't do anything right now. This game is winnable for Paul if he had gotten back the Shade last turn. He'd have had an extra card in hand. He would have actually not traded with the, well, he would have traded with the Fiethsing anyway because Brandon would have tapped Leviatine, but semantics. You know, he could have had a chance. No, there's no chance. The Charlotte would have died regardless. But he would have been able to play Shade this turn alongside this Abdul. Does he have another Shade anyway? Oh, he's setting a card. Okay. He had to have set Prison, right? Why are you setting Prison with Abdul in play? See, this is what I'm talking about. Instead of setting Prison, he could have played Shade this turn. If he had reanimated the last turn instead of not doing anything with his 3 mana. I'm mad that he didn't even Necromancy with the 3 mana. Why is there a face down exile card? Or is that just showing this is one card in the face down pile and it's representing it over here? Is this exile? Not sure how untap works. So let's see what Brandon can do with this turn. Is he hard casting Adam Brawley? No reason to play it. Or no reason to like sack guys for it. There's an Abdul and a Prison down. I'm hard pressed to imagine that being anything other than Prison, because Riza requires a condition of no Resonators on the field to flip, and you're playing, you know, Abdul and Charlotte and Shade, and the Charlotte's sticky. You know, it's hard to get rid of that. Brandon paying. He Bear Magic? Oh, he Bear Magic to the Abdul. Okay, and is now playing Ruck Egg. We'll sack 2 of those for Adam. Brandon, that's a Prison. Brandon, that's a Prison. This man set Prison with Abdul on the field, and you're going to let him punish you. Why? Why, Brandon? It sort of makes sense. You can Apollo back the Adam Brawley in response to the Prison, and then play it over, I would guess, Triton Elf. Get that draw. And if it's not a Prison, you get hyper rewarded, but I can't imagine that not being a Prison. Well, alright, so if Brandon... Actually, yeah, no, this makes sense. So if Brandon produced a blue mana, or... So... He needs the Adam Brawley effect to go off. So if that's Prison, he doesn't get to produce the second blue mana to replay the Triton? Because what I'm thinking is Brandon's going to try to Apollo the Adam Brawley and Apollo the Triton, and like play the Triton, get the Abdul, sack it for... Oh. Okay, it's not a Prison? Is Paul picking up his cards? Oh, he was moving them from... Oh, okay. So, now I understand. The face down pile was not representing this. This was Paul's exile. He had just moved everything down a little bit, so that his exile ended up in a face down pile, his grave ended up in his exile. It was a space-time anomaly. So yeah, what Brandon did there is sack a Ruck Egg and an Elf token for the Adam Brawley. The Abdul was Bear Magic, so the Adam Brawley's effect goes off. It deals 400 to the Abdul, which is now a 4/4 Bear, and kills it. He produces a red mana, places Guinevere. I can't imagine what that set card is, if not Prison. Because, like, Melder's useless without Riza, really. Then he gets in for 600 with the Elves and the Triton. Ah, man, if he had had that Shade. I don't know what this set card is. I'm so confused. If he's playing Melder and not Riza, or if he's playing the stealth package along with all of this, either one of those is a mind-boggling possibility that I had not considered. How does See, like, this is unfortunate. This is a bigger punish. Like, this is not a water stone, or it's not a dark, well, it's not a water or a darkness stone. So you can't get back shade when you call this stone, right? So, yeah, this all comes back, like, even if he had played the shade last turn instead of setting whatever this is. Oh, he couldn't prison. Duh. He couldn't prison because Ancient Barrier's on the field. Here I am, talking about this earlier in the game, like, oh, you can't do it. You have to pay 2 more mana. So it's very possible that, you know, he played Abdul and set prison, was prepared for the Bear Magic play, and then was like, oh wait, do I have, like, it's very possible that in the call he was like, wait a minute, do I have to pay extra mana if I flip the chance standby? And Bremont said yes, which is correct, and then he was like, oh, I guess I'm beat. Yeah. Okay, so this most likely is a why'd you set a prison when you're tapped out? Should have gotten back shade and played it. I'm heated. He'd still be in a position to win this game. Only slightly, though, because, well, yeah, no, because Abdul would have gotten Bear Magicked, but you would have Adam Brawley'd the Shade to force it before the Guinevere comes down? 5, 6, 5? Captain Hook? Endless Night. Okay. That's big. That's real big. Brandon doesn't have any, Death Sights in hand, because he played them both in the same turn when it wasn't the turn that it wasn't necessary to play both of them. He played both of them, and now he's gonna lose his board except for either the Triton or the Guinevere. I'm hard pressed to imagine that the Guinevere sticks around. So the Triton's gonna go, and this Paul could win this game if he had gotten back shade. Brandon's board would be clear. He would be up so much life. The last stone in his deck, I'm assuming, is another one of these. I'm hard-pressed to imagine him running 2... So some Val2 decks ran 2 Necromancy, but there's no way you run 2 Necromancy and this stone because, you know, this is free because you're Valentina, much like Killing Stone and Fox. So he went for the... So his last stone should be this, so he can get back shade next turn. And yeah, Brandon going to lose his whole board except for the Triton, and that is because Val3 will, you know, -3 the Guinevere. Or -3 the Guinevere. I say -3, it doesn't matter, the thing's dying. But he's going to -3 the Guinevere and then -2 the board, killing the Adam Brawley. So this Triton will survive with 400 attack, and it can get bowed. He didn't bow it last turn. That's another thing I just thought about. I got lost in the madness of trying to figure out why this was a prison that didn't get flipped. That I forgot that he could have bowed the Triton on the attack, and he'd still be at a healthy 1100 life. This Triton would be dead. Brandon's board would be completely clear. And this is why I like Endless Night more than Plot of Water and Darkness. That was the one thing I reamed Tyler Wilson about after he won GP Atlanta, was he played 4 Plot of Water and Darkness and no Endless Night. And I couldn't fathom it. And they were like, oh, well, you know, he liked to make tokens, and there were a few times that he made a token instead of killing something, and I was like, 3 mana to make a 4/4 token is not the versatility I want when I can just clear Fiethsing's board. But arguably, Fiethsing's supposed to be your good matchup anyway, even in the absence of Endless Night. And nobody was really running Triton at the time, so I don't blame him for... Or not Triton, Ancient Barrier in the main at the time, so... You know. You expected your game plan to actually function from turn 2 onwards, instead of getting Ancient Barriered. But Brandon actually not in a great position now. Ooh, this has been a back and forth. If Brandon deserves to lose this, but Paul also doesn't deserve to win. This is what you get, guys. Top tier commentary, where I forget about things I spoke on earlier in the game and then make fun of both the players for not doing things. Guinevere can come down. This is really only... Oh, I missed it. He Apollo'd. What did he Apollo? Oh, he Apollo'd the Guinevere. And what else did he Apollo? Because the Adam Brawley's in the grave. I missed it. I'm bugging. Apollo's went off instead of his board getting cleared, and I didn't pay attention to what they were. I was so heated. Okay, maybe Paul couldn't win this game, but 2 Gwyber coming down is definitely a rough thing to get through. Brandon should have a token. Right? There's no reason a token would be dead. At least I got that right. Not that it matters. I don't imagine with this mana, Paul can come back from double Gwyber. Can we talk about how Brandon drew 2 Gwybers out of all? The madness of it all. Paul should have gotten back a thing that I was talking about. Okay, there we go. Space-time before untap. So what I was saying is Paul should have gotten back the Shade. Bremont should have killed him with Levitine. Bremont shouldn't have sealed the space-time. He should have been able to just Death Scythe pump and instead played them after the fact, if I remember correctly. I know there was something he could have done where he didn't... Yeah, he could have just gotten back the Death Scythe from grave and played it, and then pumped and not had to seal that. So he could have sealed that Endless Night. It's been a back and forth that my heart can't handle. He is Apolloing... It looks like he's Guinevereing something, and then he's probably going to Apollo that Guinevere. Oh, he's Guinevere pumping something. No, that doesn't make any sense. Is it a +4 pump? Okay, so what he did is, I'm assuming this went on Triton, because it's the only thing it can kill. It looks as though Bremont pumped it with Guinevere's ability, and then Apollo the Guinevere back to hand, and so the Guinevere ability says give something +4/+4. It dies when it takes or is dealt damage this turn, but Spacetime's a minus ability, so that Guinevere gets around that, and then because, you know, this is his opponent's turn, it's obviously not going to deal any damage. It's going to survive to the end of turn thanks to that +4/+4 buff. And Bremont will be all the happier for it. Because he's not going to be able to Shade it this turn, because he'd have to play the Shade this turn. I don't think there's anything... Okay, so Paul can survive if he has Bear Magic. So one of those Guybers was probably -7/-7, right? He wouldn't put the -2/-2 on something else. So let's assume, let's say this Guyber is -7/-7, right? So it is pumped up to 16. No, he had to have been space-timing the Guinevere, right? Why else would you Apollo the Guinevere? Okay, yeah, never mind. Throw all that out the window. He had to have space-timed the Guinevere, right? There's no other... You wouldn't Apollo the Guinevere if it wasn't getting space-timed. Yeah. What did he pump and why? I don't know. Doesn't really matter. Probably just pumped something out of range for the rest of the turn. Probably maybe the Triton. I was thinking about something else, trying to figure out if like Bear Magic space-time could get him out of this. Where it's like you like space-time one of these again. If it killed it, then you're good, but it wouldn't kill it. And then like Bear and Bow the Guyber next turn, and then like you have Bear Magic, but this is only a 4/4, so it wouldn't matter. But Spacetime wouldn't kill a double Spacetime would not kill a Guinevere pumped Guyber anyway, so all that's out the window regardless. But I can't imagine Paul having any combination of cards that's going to win him this game. And the problem is this doesn't get better for Paul after side, because Brandon plays the Ancient Barrier, and I would imagine he brings in more copies. And in a blue-black deck, you don't have any access to addition removal. So normally, you know, what should be a decent matchup for Val 3 gets completely blown out by this one card. Okay, gonna be another space. Well, yeah, the space-time from Grave. Targeting something. He probably has to target that, So if what I think happened, then he went to, you know, -5/-5 the Guinevere. Probably like -2/-2 this. So Guinevere pump it, bounce back the hand. So if he -7/-7's this, then it'll die. That's not what happened though. Is he trying to Bear Magic? Don't tell me he's trying to space-time then Bear Magic, because that doesn't work. Oh no, he is! If he drew that off the space-time, that's really unfortunate, but so the way that layers work in Forceful and Bear Magic, if you went to 2016 Worlds, you have a PhD in how Bear Magic works. Because that was like the biggest concern of the weekend. We spent like a whole day figuring out every interaction with this card. But, so, the only things that stick through Bear Magic are +1/+1 counters, I would assume -1/-1 counters, and damage. Temporary -- effects like Val 3 or Spacetime do not persist through Bear Magic. So if you Spacetime something and then Bear Magic it, it becomes a 4/4 bear. This is one of those things that you have to do the other way around. You have to Bear Magic before you Spacetime. And like if he drew this off of the Spacetime, it still doesn't make sense for him to play it here, because he could Bear Bow something next turn. And like even minus the attack off of things as he's bearing, because this -100 attacks something in Val 3. It looks like, if I had to guess, I would say Brandon is probably currently explaining this interaction to him. Paul probably is thinking that that's a load of horse shit because it really sounds like it. If you're coming like from a new player perspective, you'd be like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. And he's right. It really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's just one of those things that I know. But it does look like Brandon's like explaining to him what is happening right now based on how long this bear magic has been sitting on the board. So I'd imagine they're contacting a judge or something, trying to figure out if Brandon believes him. All that kind of good stuff. So in the meantime, I don't have any relaxing elevator music to put on for you guys as this interaction is figured out. But, David is currently checking his phone to see if there is any messages asking about space-time bear magic. But it looks like Paul got the ruling and is going to pick up his cards. I don't, even if he did it in the right order, I don't think he was coming back from that. Because if that Triton was an 8-8 like I expected, or a 6-6 like I expect it was, then like a space-time wouldn't kill it anyway. Like you wouldn't be able to like bear a Gwyber and then space-time the Gwyber and have that space-time kill the Triton with the leftover, which you would have been able to do if Guinevere didn't pump it. And then next turn you can bear bow the remaining Gwyber, and you actually would have been in a fine spot, but because Brandon, you know, pumped the Triton with his Guinevere, it didn't matter. So heads up play by Brandon, even though he punted earlier in the game. He manages to bring it back on the back of Ancient Barrier, and what a powerful, powerful card that was for the Fiethsing deck. So, I don't know any players' side decks, but I imagine that Paul is taking out any copies of Nameless Mist that he has in, potentially even taking out some of the Darkstorms, and just putting in like more Scorn, more Unseen Pressure, maybe another Bear Magic. I'm not sure how many bows he runs. He's probably running like 3 Bear Magic, 4 bow. That's generally what people played if they played Bear Bow. Unfortunately, like I said, not finding any addition removal in the blue-black colors. Brandon going to be bringing in more copies of the Ancient Barrier that we saw him, you know, hold down the game with. Going to be taking out those Bear Magics. Probably not taking out Seal of Wind and Light. He is expecting the Nameless Mists to come out. Maybe he even puts in more Seal of Wind and Light. Not out of the question. You know, it does stop Endless Night, which is a big threat to this deck. I'm trying to remember what else, like, got sided in this matchup. Brandon might... Oh, no, Brandon probably keeps in the Bear Magics because it's the Abdul version. I forgot it's not Stealth. There's a lot of, like, finicky things you can do with, like, the Fiethsing side deck, depending on if you're going first or second. Like, generally, if you're going first, you will side out a Tama, because, like, you only play the 1 greenstone outside of your Ruler's Memorias, so, like, generally you only want Tama going second so you can energize into it and play a turn 1 Gwyber. But if you're going first, like, that play can't happen. So it actually gets a little bit harder to stick Tamas. Generally, you end up taking them out, or at least just one of them, like, lessen the chances of opening with it. But we're going to get started with Game 2. Brandon going to be on the play this time, after a agonizing Game 1, where they missed things, I missed things, we all misplayed. I'm not even in this game and I misplayed. That commentary was forgetful, at best. Hey, David. Alright, both players just mulliganing. Trying to shake off the nerves from Game 1. So one of the things I want to point out is Paul is playing a 42-card deck. I don't remember how many cards were in Tyler Wilson's deck, but generally, like, the Val 3 deck, it draws a lot of cards, but only if it finds space-time. There's really, like, they play Val's Reach, and, I mean, the Charlotte Resonator draws a card, but I'm not even convinced you keep that in. I mean, I don't know how to play that version of the deck. I'm not sure if you keep it in this matchup. I would think that you would, because you need a proactive way to win the game. But at the same time, if you were like, hey, it comes out, I wouldn't be surprised. So yeah, it looks like, yeah, Brandon's doing that thing I was talking about earlier, where you sack your turn 1, because you only open 1 Regalia. So you want to be able to play Regalia 1-drop on turn 2, so that you can play your Gwyber. It's a little bit awkward to get around, but Paul can stop that from happening if he unseen pressures the token. So what happens is, when you put your second card on the chase, the token goes on the chase automatically. So Guinevere is still on the chase when the token comes out. So you can respond to Guinevere to kill the token. And then Gwyber can't come out that turn. And it looks like that's what he's doing. And then he'll be able to just, you know, space-time the Guinevere next turn. She'll be able to sack herself, but that's not a big deal. Or if he plays another 1-drop, he could sack that. If he's trying to space-time... What the fuck? What is Brandon doing? Why is Apollo in the grave? Why is the Guinevere in his hand? There is not a priority sequence where Paul has an opportunity to space-time while Guinevere is on the field before the Gwyber comes down. So, either Bremont doesn't have a Gwyber, which makes me question that play in general, or Brandon forgot how priority works. And Paul also forgot how priority works. I don't want to like discredit this guy. Like I don't know who Paul is, but like I don't want to be like, this guy's an idiot. He doesn't know how priority works. Like I'm not going to assume the worst of this guy. What the hell? Where did Brandon get all these stones? I think Brandon's having some problem with the untap interface, which is understandable. It's not the most intuitive system, and Ancient Barrier is going to come down. I'm trying to figure out what Bremont was doing. So, the only way he would have been able to space-time is if Bremont passed turn. And I'm trying to figure out why he didn't just play the Apollo and Guinevere turn 1. Maybe he drew the Apollo for turn? Hard to say. That's likely the case. He didn't play it. He didn't play a Regalia here, and you figure if he had one, he would have played it, because if he hits a Ruler's Memory, he can't play his Ancient Barrier this turn, and then this game gets a lot rougher for him. So, I'm going to operate under the assumption that Brandon top-decked that Apollo on turn 2, because that seems to make the most sense based on how this game has gone. You know, not playing one the turn that he puts in the Apollo, or the Ancient Barrier. Although, I really want to ask him after the match where his turn 2 was going. And then, you know, Paul, not having Abdul or Shade, just going to end up passing his turn. There's not a whole lot you can do in the face of this Ancient Barrier. Like, this Guinevere is only going to die if a, what's it called? An Unseen Pressure comes out. That's, sorry. Yeah, Brandon's just going to play Guinevere followed by 3-mana Gwyver, get his 1 token. And it's probably just going to be a pass after that. I can't imagine him doing anything else. Brandon playing a risky game here. No Regalia. But he should be able to draw on 1 when he sacks this token off to a Guinevere, I would imagine. Then Paul suffering the unfortunate circumstances of having all these cards in hand and no mana to cast it with. Ancient Barrier is rough, man. It's like getting hooked, but worse. Because all of your like, everything costs more mana. It's like you get hooked every time you try to play a card. It's so rough for this deck. If Brandon can find and play a second one, the game just ends on the spot. Like, I might just turn off this video if a second Ancient Barrier comes down. And then if you tell me that Paul somehow won that game, I will find this man and give him $100. But I seriously doubt that's going to happen. Paul didn't call a stone yet. Oh, because he's still in his untap phase. That makes sense. I was trying to figure out where this Bear Magic was coming. Alright, so he's going to Bear Magic the Gwyber. I would imagine he is going to... Actually, he might even Bear Magic the Guinevere to force a sack. But it's more likely that he's going for the Gwyber to get that pressure off the field. I would imagine that now he is going to call a stone, play his space-time anomaly from grave, kill the Gwyber, kill the token. Guinevere is going to sack one of them. And the Guinevere is going to live, which is unfortunate, but like, your opponent's engine is still alive, but you're not dying immediately to the Gwyber. Like, as much as you would love to remove the Guinevere is going to kill you in a couple of turns. And yeah, the token's probably going to eat the -2/-2 from the Guinevere, or from the Valkyrie effect. Although, Brandon just sacking off the Gwyber in response. Discarding a Bear Magic. So he did leave those in. Makes sense, given the Abduls in the deck. Turning off the Atom Brawlies. He knows he's going for the Ancient Barrier game plan, so Prison isn't as much of an issue, so it's really just the Abdul that he has to worry about. And it's possible that, I don't know for sure, but there were some Fiethsing decks that played like the Captain Hook stuff. which is very good in this matchup. Obviously not if your opponent has Abdul, so it makes sense that the Bear Magic stay in if that's something that you either kept in or are bringing in for this matchup. Which I wouldn't be surprised if you bring it in for this matchup. This is a deck that plays, 10 special stones. You can leave in the Bear Magic, steal with Abdul, and then boom, you just hook your opponent out of the game. With Ancient Barrier on the field, it's the nail in the coffin. Like, there's no coming back from, like, Ancient Barrier Captain Hook. And Brandon going to whiff this time. I'm hard-pressed to imagine he doesn't have a Regalia in hand. After all the drawing he has done with this Guinevere. All 2 cards of it. But these decks usually play like 8 or 9 Regalia. So 11 cards into his deck is Brandon. Looks like he is going for an Atom Brawly? Oh no. I thought he was setting them up on top of each other like he did last time for an Atom Brawly play. But it would be a little weird to Atom Brawly here. You already have access to playing Gwyber or whatever you want. Unless he's going to unless he was trying to set up Drags. Which isn't impossible. So he's going to get a Ruckegg Search and produce a mana. So he could search Drag and play it. I was trying to think if there actually is a scenario where he can drop multiple Drags, and it is if he sacks his Tama to kill itself and then sacks his Guinevere, or even sacks the Atom Brawly to the Guinevere, then he will have access to 1-mana Drags. But I don't imagine him doing that, unless he already has like 2 Drags in hand somehow. Like if his hand is 2 Drag and then he searches a 3rd one, yeah, no, he's just going to do the normal play, the good play of just producing the 1 mana with Atom Brawly, playing a 3-mana Drag. Because the problem is, if he has 1 more Drag in hand, he still has to sack 2 creatures to play both of them. Because they'd cost 2 mana, he only has 3 mana, so he still can't play them both. But this is where Brandon should start to take control of the game. A Endless Night here wouldn't break Brandon's back. It'd definitely set him back, because he'd wipe everything except the Atom Brawly, I would imagine. Brandon would draw 2 cards and discard, go up to 5 cards. But without any Regalia, it's very hard for Brandon to even flip that Fiethsing and start, like, playing 2 cards in a turn to get those tokens online. And it's still vulnerable to, like, Black Moonbeam, even Space-Time Anomaly at this point. He doesn't have any... Okay, yeah, there's going to be an Endless Night. What I was saying is Brandon doesn't have any Regalia to, like, pump up his Fiethsing if he does flip it. So... he doesn't have access to, like, getting out of space-time range, or if his opponent plays a bow, then, bow space-time will take it out. So Brandon going to tap his Guinevere, sack 1 of his creatures, doesn't really matter which one as long as it's not Atom Brawly. Draw 2, discard 1. See if he can find a Regalia now. Finding a Regalia actually wouldn't be great for him, because he's already down on cards. Like, sure, he's got the Ancient Barrier out, so, like, he is technically at an advantage, but you want to find cards that do things in a game state like this. And Regalia just don't do anything. And it looks like he didn't find any. He's gonna... Did he draw for turn? I thought he was gonna go up... I was pretty sure he was gonna go up to 5 cards. I don't think he drew for turn. Like 99% sure he didn't draw for turn. Oh well. That's on him. But Brandon gonna go in with this, wait, what is he doing? So he attacked with this, right? Oh! Wait a minute, no. Did he... It would seem like he Endless Nighted at the start of Brandon's turn, because this Atom Brawly only hit him for 4. Yeah, okay, so he's gonna play this little guy who's gonna instantly die. I still don't think he drew for turn. I thought he was gonna... Unless he drew for turn, and then that's why I was looking at the 3 cards. Not 100% though. It's possible that I got my turns mixed up and Brandon did draw for turn. I just wasn't counting the cards. Like, I didn't look at his hand before he drew for turn. I, like, saw it after, and I was like, no, because he had 3 cards in it when he dragged. I don't know. It's possible that Brandon didn't draw for turn because, he got caught up in the madness of figuring out this Endless Night and stuff, but... Not 100% sure. I'm like 80% sure he didn't draw for turn, though. But Brandon just gonna play his Guinevere. And like I said, like, 1 Ancient Barrier doesn't, like, kick this deck out of the game. Especially if you have a slow start where like you can't drop multiple Gwybers in a turn, or like multiple dragons, you know, Drake included. It is alright. So I think the thing that threw me off is that you don't want to endless night and wipe your opponent's board on their turn, and the very reason is Drake. Like if Brandon had another Drake in hand, then he would have been able to play it that turn for 2 mana. And like obviously the other cards in his hand ended up being unplayable, so it didn't really matter. I would assume he's holding open a Seal of Wind and Light here. I'm hard pressed to imagine him not having any other playable cards in hand. Like even a Gwyber here would have only cost him 3 mana because he played the Guinevere. Maybe it's like Adam Brawley, Bear Magic, something bad. I don't know. Not a doctor. Wait, what did he discard for? Oh yeah, he discarded Bear Magic for the Guinevere. Okay, yeah, so. Probably not any more Bear Magics in his hand. There's already 2 in the grave. But if his hand is like Adam Brawley Seal, I don't know, something else, that's like not a dragon, it's very understandable that he wouldn't play it because he just wants to hold up in the Seal mana. Slow beat him down with this Adam Brawley. Alright, Charlotte coming down. You know, we're actually getting to a point where I could see Paul winning this game through a second Ancient Bear. That's where we're at right now, folks. Unless Brandon seals this. If he has the seal, he has to... Yeah, okay. And now, Paul can't respond with any chance. He doesn't have any... There's no 0 mana chance in that deck. That'd be wild. 0 mana chance? Who's heard of such a crazy thing? Not I. Brandon's just going to go in for 6. Nothing Paul's going to be able to do about that. Unless... No, nothing he can do about it. Because he would need 3 mana to Bear Bow it. Ooh, going to play a Levitine. Is he going to flip? If he has a 1 mana card, I could see a flip. Like, that's Scythe on the field, so he can't attack, but he does want to get those 2 tokens out. Even if you just end up, like, sacking... I would imagine whatever 1-drop he plays is going to end up getting sacked to the Guinevere over the tokens. The tokens are very valuable. They're his win condition at this point. Brandon. I don't know if he doesn't understand how to flip the card, or if the Fiethsing card on untap doesn't have a backside, because some of them are wonky like that. Like people just didn't code in a backside or whatever. So he's gonna play Ruck Egg. He's gonna get 2 tokens. Oh, that's another Fiethsing. That's not a token. You can't have 2 of those. All right, there he goes. So this Ruck Egg will probably end up getting sacked to the Guinevere next turn. As Brandon just tries to establish a board of tokens. If he can find a Death Scythe, he's actually in a pretty good spot. Because you can just, you know, remove the Death Scythe, cycle through your graveyard, get that back with Guinevere, and have that as your discard. So you're effectively just drawing 2 cards with every Guinevere. But he's had a hard time finding Regalia this game. This is actually like a pretty... I don't want to say an even game state. It's an even game state if Paul has Black Moonbeam. But based on the fact that he just drew for turn, I don't think he does. Unless he drew it now and he's going to do it before on tap, but... Also just possible that, you know, Paul forgets that Black Moonbeam's an ancient magic and then he can play it for 2 mana. That was something that came up in testing, is like, one of my friends was playing Fiethsing against me. Like, oh, look, he does have Black Moonbeam. Yeah! Paul remembering that it's an ancient magic, something that Sam Shake forgot in testing. So now it's an even game. Now we're down to an even game. We've got a match on our hands, boys and girls. I would say that... I don't even want to say that Bremont's favored. If Paul just has a way to kill this Guinevere, and Bremont only gets 1 search off of it, and then he has a way to kill the Guinevere that comes down off the Ruck Egg, like, all he needs is, like, space-time unseen pressure. Or, like, unseen pressure, unseen pressure. Although that's asking for a lot. We haven't seen any unseen pressures come out of Paul yet. I'm hard-pressed to imagine that he doesn't run them at all. That would be wild. So yeah, Brandon now going to sack off one of his tokens, not the Ruck Egg. Discard a Death Scythe. Okay. So he does have that, you know, cycle through online. Although I am surprised that he didn't sack the Ruck Egg and search a Guinevere and play the... Oh! Right, it's not Brandon's turn. Why did he? Oh, he was Wait a minute, no. Alright, so here's where I get confused. Black Moonbeam puts Val 3's ability on the chase, right? Val 3's gonna go kill your token. You can't Guinevere that, because Black Moonbeam's on the chase. Right? I'm not crazy, right? Like, you can't do that because Black Moonbeam comes down, Val's ability goes on the chase because it's an automatic trigger, you kill the token, you can't Guinevere because Black Moonbeam's on the chase and this card cannot be chased, right? Like, I understand you're chasing the ability that comes after Black Moonbeam, but that's not really how that works. Thank you. David confirmed that I am correct. You can't sack a token that is being killed by a Val ability that is killing it with Black Moonbeam. That's why I was so confused by that play, where I was like, what's he doing? Why is he sacking a token out of nowhere? But I'm not watching this to be a judge, so I'm not going to step in. These guys want to be screwy with it, that's on them. Two bows is actually going to make this really hard for Brandon to fight through. Like, he's got the Guinevere, so he can just sack whatever gets bowed, but, oh boy. 6 mana. Like, Val's reaching to draw discard 2 cards? Okay, he's just going to pay 5 damage. That makes a little bit more sense. And that will clear Brandon's board. He will get a Guinevere for the trouble. Or a Drake. Maybe he goes for a Drake. Hard pressed to imagine that, though, with 2 bows on the field and a Bear Magic Engrave. Yeah. It's actually looking like Paul's game to win. I want to say Brandon hasn't made any glaring misplays this game, but that turn 2. I still don't know what he was doing on that turn 2. Like, there's no way he had Gwyver. Oh no, he's played 1 Gwyver this game. Yeah, I think we went over that. I think he had to have had that Gwyver and just didn't do it. He just didn't do it. So yeah, there's the Guinevere that he searched out the Ruck Egg. But what does he have for follow-up? Probably not a lot, right? I mean, Paul can't interact with it this turn, so that Guinevere is at least going to draw him